Um, I think we got some good work throughout training camp with those. I think a lot of it starts with us being able to run the football and being able to utilize, our play action to help push it down there. But, I feel like with the package that we have this year, I like that package. I like what we're able to do with it. And, hopefully, when we take the field Monday night, a couple of those will show up. Yeah, like I've said all throughout training camp, we've worked a number of different combinations with those guys in there. I feel very comfortable, with the guys that we have on our roster right now, with the guys that we have starting. If guys have to come in off the bench, I think those guys have done a great job, just working, through those different combinations, working the communication process. But, I'm very confident in their ability to go out there, and play well, and not only protect me, but open up holes in the running game. Um, honestly, there's not a whole lot of difference for me. You could probably ask Tony or you could ask those guys, but um, I felt like with both of those guys, we had good communication. Obviously, I think Nick, having played, the last several games last year, I think early on in training camp or during the spring, I was probably a little bit more comfortable with him. But obviously, Pat's got a ton of work. I think he's come a long ways, and I feel very comfortable with him at center. I think he's done a great job of grasping our system, grasping the protections, and what we're asking him to do. Um, I think it's definitely been interesting. I think this year, it's really only the second time in my career where I haven't been rehabbing an injury and I've had the same offensive coordinator, and been able, to kind of fine tune an offense. And so, that's been, really enjoyable for me this offseason, to really be able to focus on what we're doing on offense, to be able to dedicate my time to that, to not be rehabbing or to not be learning a new system, where you're kind of starting from, the ground level and trying to build it. I feel like after Pat took over last year and some of the things we were able, to do, we went back and looked at what we did well, things we felt like we could improve, and just kind of took it from there. So, it was nice to really not have to start over this off season. Yeah, obviously for him to come in and for, our coaches to have the trust in him, for, myself to have the trust in him to go out there, and play that position and really lead those five guys up front. I think it says a lot about him. Like you said, it's a tough position to come in as a rookie and to start opening day. And, I think it's a credit to him and what he's been able to do since he's been here. So I think we're excited about having Pat at that position. Oh, quarterback for sure. You know, yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I think, if you ask anyone, they're probably, going to tell you the position they play is the hardest, and make up some reason for it. I think obviously every position is asked to do different things. There's different hurdles mentally and physically to play every position. I don't think any position is easy. But obviously being a quarterback, it's the only position I know. And, I think there's a lot on our plate, both physically and mentally, to be able to go out there and know what everyone's doing, to operate an offense. But, like I said, I think every position, has its challenges. Um, God, I don't even think I can give you an answer to that one. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think, obviously they've got a new group of guys, so you go back and watch last year's tape and you realize that, there's going to be some different faces out there. But, I think regardless of who you're playing, it always seems like the opener, your preparation, it's just a little bit tricky because you're not really sure what they're going to do. You're not really sure, if what they showed in the preseason is what they're going to come out and play. Obviously they go back and they look at last year and, how they played and what they did well and what they struggled with, and they'll come out with some new wrinkles. So, I think the biggest thing going into this week is just making sure that we're all on top of what we're doing. Having answers for what they present us, but just making sure that, we're comfortable with our game plan, comfortable with our plays, so that no matter what they throw at us, we're able to go out there, play fast, and just be the aggressors.
Now that you've looked at all of film and all that, why do you think the offense, the first team offense, only managed 3 points in 12 possessions in the preseason?
Well, we only kicked 1 field goal, so we scored 3 points.
Right.
Um,
Were you holding some stuff back, or was it the line shuffling in and out, or were you just pleased with some of the efficiency?
I think anytime that you go out there and only score 3 points, you're probably a little bit disappointed in the efficiency. And, I think a lot of it was just, self-inflicted wounds. We shot ourselves in the foot, whether it be, penalties, taking sacks, getting ourselves behind the chains, not converting on third down. You can typically look at those areas and, any offense that doesn't score, those are the reasons they're not scoring. I really try not to compare guys and their styles. I think everyone's kind of their own player, their own individual. I think Dalvin, he's shown an ability to do everything for us, to be in there first, second, third down with his ability to run the ball, with his ability in the pass game, to be used as a wide receiver or coming out of the backfield. And then also, for a young guy, I think he does a great job in protection. And so, who that reminds me of, I'm not really sure, but I know that we really like him. Um, Pat, I think he grew up in the West Coast. But if you look at his offense, I think the great thing about Pat is, he's had his core offense, but, you know, if I look back at what we were doing in St. Louis, what we were doing in Philly, and what we're doing now, I think there's, bits and pieces of all of those offenses. I think we're multiple. I think we throw a lot of different looks at defenses, and Pat's not afraid to change, which is why I really like working with him. Um, I'm just very comfortable with Pat. I've said this before. I think him knowing me as well as he does, he knows what I see well. He knows what I like. He knows, things that we've had success with in the past. And he can kind of draw on that. And the same being, I know what Pat's trying to do. With certain calls. I know how we're trying to attack defenses. So, I think our conversations during the game, having been together. We've got a pretty good feel for what we're seeing out there on the field and what we want to get to. So it makes it easy for me, to come up to him with ideas, but it also, it's easy for me to understand when he comes to me with something, hey, I want to get to this play or I want to get to this play. I usually have a pretty good understanding of why he wants to do that.
Do you have input going into the game plan that's assembled and making changes at the line of scrimmage?
I think I've always had input with him. Like I said, I think one of the greatest things about him is his willingness to adapt, his willingness to listen. If I have a good idea and I take it to him and he likes it, he's going to put it in. We're going to look at it during the week. So I don't know if it's any more this year than it has been in the past.
If they had more responsibility with protection, with given the state of your offensive line,
Probably a little bit. Like I said, I've got a lot of confidence in Pat. I think he's done a great job just understanding our protections, understanding our schemes, and how we're trying to block things. But at the end of the day, he still is young. And so if I can help and if I see something that, I need to change, then obviously I'll do so.